Lesnarski.
Jim Hilly.
Walt Recook.
Gary Willis.
Christopher Bluer.
Todd Chernick.
Sumit Shah.
The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-legal board composed of resident volunteers of the City of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determinations. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided by these four considerations. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief if granted would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. At this time, we either need to adopt or amend the agenda. Any motions?
I'd like to approve
Mr.
the
Chair,
agenda.
I'm sorry, before we go into that, may I ask that an item be added, just perhaps an announcement? I just wanted to address the new the procedure that we have.
Sure.
If you can add that as a 3A.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion and add a 3A?
Thank you. As I say, since I can't make the motion, I'll need someone to.
Okay, I'd like to approve the agenda with the addition of 3A, which is to discuss the new procedure.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the amendment of the agenda with adding a 3A, which is to discuss the new procedure, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Nancy abstained.
Because I wasn't here last month.
Would you like to discuss that now?
If we're on to 3A.
We are.
Thank you. And this is very brief and not intended to make this any more imposing than it is, but as I'm sure the board appears to be aware, beginning this month, staff has included as part of their packet in their report a recommendation. I just wanted to make it clear from a legal perspective, this is just staff's taking a look with their background at the variances that have been presented and applying their opinion to the variances that have been requested. It is in no way binding on this board. This board is to exercise its quasi-judicial authority in analyzing the facts and applying the standards which apply to variances and make your own determination. It's there for your benefit. You can accept, go 180 degrees, the opposite, or some combination in between. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them. I just want to make sure it was clear.
Yes, sir.
I guess I have a real question. To me, it's kind of bothers me that as a judicial board, we're hearing a case, given information basically prepared by the staff, submitted by the applicant, and hopefully other comments to be heard during the evening from adjoining property owners and other folks that could come and give their opinion on whether a case should or should not be approved. To ask the staff, it puts them in a terrible position as well, to make an opinion on what's better or not for approval on a case seems to be inconsistent with what I see most judicial bodies hearing a case. If a police officer, God forbid, gave our chairman a ticket and the police officer said, well, I'm going to tell the judge how to find this gentleman, I think I know what the judge would say. He would say, thank you, Mr. Officer, you can sit down now, and I'll decide upon what I hear from the case. In the same way, I consider being even offered information. I appreciate it, but I think we as a group need to be building a case. They need to help us with what information the city has, as well as the people presenting it. And then, in addition to that, I kind of look at this, if we ever do get sued, and let's say we go ahead and vote either for or against contrary to what the staff recommends, I think, again, it puts the city in a difficult position where they've got to defend both sides of potentially a coin. Why one decision was made for or against. And again, I just think it sets up a very bad precedent for what could or could not occur involving our cases. That's my two.
Counselor, maybe it would help if we got some kind of idea of what the drivers are behind that.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the drivers are. I just know that it has been incorporated into the process. That I know several months ago there were. All I know is there were discussions about whether or not it was something to be included. That it hasn't been done in other jurisdictions. It isn't done in other jurisdictions, and
This was about council?
I don't know about the council.
City council was discussing it? Or?
I don't know if city council has. I'm not personally aware of it being discussed by the city council.
Well, I am aware, City of Alpharetta does not go through this process. Roswell does not go through it. Sandy Springs does not have this process in place where they give their recommendations to the board. And again, the reason I heard was that these are considered judicial matters, that the case has to be heard with the full breadth of all the information presented. Just because of what an applicant submits as a piece of paper, perhaps a plan, may not fully flush out the whole issue on a case, and to make a recommendation one way or the other without hearing all the evidence first bothers me. And like I said, I think it puts a tough position for the staff member to be in, even though, and I did talk to our planning director, and I think she's the one who would have to address why she made the decision to change that. Again, I think it's something that needs to be discussed a little bit more, and again, I feel for the staff member having to be put in that position without having all the information in some cases and making a decision. But,
And that's fine. That there are arguments both ways. As I said, I know jurisdictions that do it both ways, and they're perfectly valid arguments on either side. And certainly something, if this board wants to continue to pursue it, they can, I mean, you as a board can formally address it, or, as you indicated, speak with the planning director yourself if you're interested in considering alternatives.
The thing is, and what I was told, the decision was made and it's being done. And I'm not sure what authority we have to say either yes, do it, or don't do it. But I'd rather hear from some of the other board members about this as well, because I don't want to make it one person's opinion. But like I said, I think it puts the person making the decision in a hard position.
And I just want to be clear, and I respect that position, but just to make clear, yes, the opinion is presented based on information available at the time. You are, again, not bound by it, and you will also have additional information that may not have been or probably wasn't involved. And that's why you take it as one of the pieces of information, one of the tools that you have, and you can ask further questions as you feel fit.
I agree.
Yes, sir. Just one comment. I hear my colleagues concerned about the legal aspects. I'm sure somebody's thought through that who's smarter about the aspect of us potentially opening up liability if a case is
if you're referencing the concern that if this board decides against the recommendation, I'm not concerned with that from a legal perspective. It has no legal binding authority on this board. We're not. Again, you're applying your independent analysis, and each of you individually is doing that. So
Right,
that-
and ultimately, that was my comment, in that this is another perspective from areas that have a familiarity and a duty to try to live up to the laws of the city and to do what's in the best interest, and they're providing their opinion, and it's just that, it's a third opinion. We can take it or leave it.
That's correct.
Any other questions or comments? There you go.
For,
My personal opinion is, let's run with it 3, 4, 5, 6 months, see how it all washes out and go from there. Because if there isn't a legal issue, I don't think we have a huge problem.
I agree.
All right. We need to have a motion to approve the August meeting minutes.
Do we not have, I thought we had one, I'm sorry, did Walt not? Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the August meeting minutes as written. Forgive me.
Do we have a second?
He was talking about.
I'll
Do we
second.
have a second? Any discussion? All in favor of approval of the August meeting minutes, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign, passed unanimously, and Nancy and Jim abstained as they were not here. That brings to our first variance, V14-013. Angela, will you please present?
V14013. The site, 100 Hopewell Grove Road, is a single-family home located on approximately 1 acre in the Hopewell Grove subdivision. The lot is located at the corner of Francis Road and Hopewell Grove Drive, is zoned AG1. Yes. The applicants, Lisa Strong and Carrie Quattrochi, proposed to build an approximately 2,300 square foot 7-car garage to the west of their existing home to house several automobiles owned by Carrie. They also propose to extend the concrete parking pad by about 3,115 square feet. Section 64-416B states that the front yard setback for AG1 properties is 60 feet. Section 64-416I states that an accessory structure should not be located within this minimum yard. The applicants propose to place the new garage approximately 30 feet from Francis Road. This is 30 feet within the minimum yard, therefore a variance is required. Section 64-4162I states that accessory structures are to be located in the rear or side yard. Ms. Strawn proposes to place the garage in what is the side corner yard of the lot, which is the shorter of the 2 front yards, adjacent to Francis Road. Therefore, a variance is required. Section 1141A1A states that a 40-foot undisturbed buffer and an additional 20-foot no improvement setback are to be provided for single-family lots adjacent to the exterior streets. And this is the new rural view shed ordinance. The proposed garage would encroach into the 20-foot no improvement setback, as well as 10 feet into the 40-foot undisturbed buffer. Because of this encroachment, a variance is required. Design Review Board courtesy review was held on July 1st, 2014, and they offered the following comments. You should bring the garage into the buildable area. There is enough room for the garage to be placed in the proposed concrete area. Keep the garage out of the front 60 feet in order to preserve the rural view shed. One board member recommends denial based on the current plan. Provide plans for the proposed garage. Additional department comments. Staff held a focus meeting on August 18th, 2014, in which the following comments were provided. Building plan review, no comments. Site plan review. In January 2014, a stop work order was issued at the above address for performing construction and grading without a permit. The contractor applied for a grading-only permit with a plan that showed a pool, but said the pool was not going to be built, so that he could bring the grading into compliance. The check bounced. He later applied for a building permit to repair the damage to the foundation that had been done without a permit so that the house would not collapse, and that check bounced also. This check has never been made good. Currently, there is no valid building permit to finish the damage that was started in January. There is real danger that if the foundation is not repaired soon, severe damage could result. A second contractor came in and said that he was going to pull the building permit, but he only wanted a retaining wall permit for now. He has built the retaining wall 3 feet higher than he stated on the plan, but he never applied for the building permit. He then gave the city a letter that said he would have nothing more to do with the project. In view of the history of the project, the following conditions are in order. Number 1, all erosion control devices shall be maintained and in compliance at all times. 2, before any building permits are issued for any reason besides restoring the existing structure to safe condition, a permit must be obtained, and repairs made to the foundation that was undermined by the previous contractor. 3, a complete site plan showing all the proposed work, along with a schedule for completion of each phase, should be submitted to the before the issuance of the building permit. 4, provide alternate site plan or reason why there is no alternate location. Install a handrail on the retaining wall that was built taller than shown on the plan. Provide engineer certification on the retaining wall. Provide plantings and screenings for the city arborist. And install permanent grass at first appropriate growing season. The arborist, the site has had previous clearing and land disturbance prior to obtaining a permit. Within the rear area that was previously disturbed appears to be enough room to construct a building without having to do additional tree removal or site disturbance, though a variance would be required for the rear setback. This setback has already been cleared. The applicant chose to proceed with other plans, which has now made it difficult to build his proposed garage within city guidelines. The area adjacent to Hopewell is a nice, naturally vegetated area with a mix of species within the 60-foot rural viewshed, and should remain as such. Attached pictures show before and after disturbance. This disturbance was done without a permit. DOT stormwater had no comments. The standards for consideration were read earlier, and the applicant's response is as follows. The accessory structure will not be situated alongside any other property's line and will still allow for natural trees alongside that property. Property topography, septic, and grade will not allow us to build it anywhere else on the property. The back of the property sets approximately 10 feet lower than the front and side and is divided by an 8-foot retaining wall that runs approximately 135 feet in length, making it impossible to locate a garage in that part of the property. The septic system is situated to run away from the house, which is located in the rear, making that space unusable. There are existing trees serving as buffer from the main road, therefore not imposing any visual disturbance. The topography of the property would pose an undue hardship, limiting the usable space to place the detached garage. Relief, if granted, would not cause a detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. Staff response. The proposed garage will encroach into the minimum side corner setback, and existing trees will be removed in course of construction, making the building more visible from Francis Road. This proposal would not support the spirit or intent of the City of Milton ordinance. While the retaining wall, grading, and septic tank limit the location of the proposed garage, the grading and retaining wall were started without a permit and without consideration for the garage. A variance cannot be approved when extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions are caused by the variance applicant. The houses adjacent to this lot along Francis Road are set back at least 60 feet. The house across Hopewell Grove Drive is set back approximately 40 feet from Francis Road, as this is the side corner setback for this lot. Keeping the garage back at least 60 feet would be in harmony with the character of Francis Road. Staff is of the opinion that there is adequate space for the construction of the garage within the allowable building envelope of the lot. Standard parking lot designs call for approximately 18 feet of space for a car to back out and maneuver. The applicant proposes a parking area of approximately 45 feet in width. Staff believes that the garage can be placed in the front yard, but outside of the minimum setback and the rural view shed without causing harm to the public good. Staff believes that allowing the garage in the front yard, but not within the 60-foot side corner setback or the rural view shed, will be the best for public welfare, while still allowing the applicant the storage that he needs for his cars. Recommended conditions. Should the board choose to approve the application, staff recommends the following conditions. The plans for the garage shall be reviewed and approved by the city architect prior to the issuance of a building permit. This building should be designed with 360-degree architecture. The landscape plan for the project should be reviewed and approved by the city architect prior to the issuance of a building permit. And work on the new garage shall not commence until, actually that should be, a building permit for the new garage shall not be issued until the current issues with the house and site are fixed. Staff recommendation. The staff recommends approval with conditions of Part 1 of the request. Staff recommends denial of Part 2 of the request. Staff recommends denial of Part 3 of the request. This concludes the staff presentation.
Any questions to staff from the board?
Can I just, Angela, if I may, just to verify, so in Jimmy Sanders' comments initially, the various permits and the checks, I mean, when it all comes down to it, no permit was ultimately issued, no check ever cleared.
We issued a permit, but the check was returned, so that made the permit null and void.
Correct, right, okay. And that's never been resolved, okay.
And Angela, I have one question. What were the check fees the city incurred for those two bounce checks?
You know what, I'm not sure.
Okay. Let me ask, do you know what the check amount would have been for?
Do you have a blown-up plan of this site? I know we've got a little plan that's in here, but I'm looking for something a little bit larger than the 8.5 by 11. And then also there's some pictures that are mentioned on page 13 and 14 to show clearing. Looks like Google Earth pictures.
They are.
And I just want to make sure, they're kind of dark in my print, and I just want to make sure what I'm looking
Yeah,
at.
I can't see them either.
Yeah, you've got the house, in that blue square, you've got the house and the trees,
I have them digital.
and then on page 14, you can see the area.
Yes, sir.
So what it looks like on
It's
sheet
impossible to tell.
14, it looks like they've cleared all the way to the back of their property,
Yeah, I mean, you can see it.
the rear of the house, I should say. And then it looks like they may have cleared some additional property to the side.
There's a subdivision too.
Oops, thank you. Let me leave one here.
We've got one.
We have another one.
That's a good question.
I got a bunch of them on this one.
So are these the three?
I guess so, yeah.
Oh, there we go. That was prior, huh?
Is that prior, a picture, Angela, or is that current?
1113 was prior.
And can you show us?
I'm sorry, these are for the applicant. This is current.
That's current, okay.
And
No, but I'll take your word for it.
Can we go to the next picture? Sure. I guess that's the rear of the house?
No, that's across the street.
That's-
You may want him to go through.
Okay.
Sure, let,
Okay, in just a second.
just a sec, just,
That's the corner.
The driveway?
and
That's
that's,
his driveway.
and that's Francis off to the left, where the stop sign is?
Yes.
That's Francis with fence
Okay.
and stop sign.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a tree.
Okay.
And this is, I think, across the street. This is the house across the street.
Any other questions to staff? At this time, we'd like to ask the applicant to come forward and please present it. If you would state your name and address for the board, we'd certainly appreciate it.
And thank you for taking the time to consider this. My name is Kerry Quattrochi. Live at 100 Hopewell Grove Drive. And to the extent that those weren't self-explanatory, let me start by saying, Angela, thank you for your help. There were some factual inconsistencies with what was said, and maybe it's just because you have so much to handle. It's probably hard to keep everything straight. But let me explain the story. I hear about some bounced checks. Let's cover that first. While I don't dispute that there were bounce checks, I paid a contractor last year, as did two other people on my road, and fronted a considerable amount of money for him to perform some work at the property. And part of it was to put in a garage. He was supposed to actually go through this process for me. I'm out of town quite a bit, and I may be a little naive about what is involved in this process and if he could even do it at the time. But he told me he could, so we paid him. And I didn't know he came down here bouncing checks to you guys. I didn't understand who this guy was until some of my neighbors started calling. I got the first call while I was out of town saying, hey, what are you doing clearing all those trees? We didn't even intend to clear trees back through all the way through the property. He took all of our trees out. We know our neighbors, and I don't think anybody really liked it. So I know that maybe this doesn't pertain particularly to what we're talking about here today, but I just want to explain what we've been through here so you have some understanding that it wasn't me coming down here bouncing checks or failing to get a permit. I was told we were getting permits. And the first I heard of it was when the city of Milton came out, and again, I wasn't even in town, and they informed me that, or I was informed by neighbors that we were in violation, that we had something in the street, and that we might even be fined. So, in short order, we decided not to work with this contractor, and since it's been an absolute nightmare, we were given a stop work order at the home, and my home was in disrepair. I don't let my children go out on the deck anymore because I think it's dangerous. We have some makeshift supports in there, but we've been just trying to get it in order. And I hired another contractor who did not bounce any checks to you guys, and he did apply for a permit for the retaining wall. And that was the factual inconsistency that I'm mentioning, because that retaining wall we did get a permit for, and he did build it. I don't dispute that he built it a few feet too high. He did. He certainly did. And towards the end, I was supposed to pay him a payment, last payment, upon approval of the wall. We were going to do this in installments, and I didn't get that approval. I wound up paying that contractor, and then he came down here, and because I had given him such a hard time about the fact that we didn't have an approval, and I wanted to make sure all my T's were crossed and I's were dotted, he decided he's not going to work with us anymore either. It's been an unpleasant experience, and I've learned a lot, but I'm doing the very best I can. The idea here was that we would do some significant landscaping, build a garage in the back, redo a retaining wall I had there that was failing. a wooden retaining wall with something a little nicer. And yeah, it's turned into a lot more than I ever thought. But I'm here. I'm trying to do the right thing. And what we want, I heard some of the recommendations, probably based in part on the frustrations that Jimmy Sanders has had down here. I don't doubt that he dealt with that other contractor, and I'm sure he's frustrated. I'm sure he's frustrated with it. And I think since maybe frustrated with, although he's always been very nice to me, it's possible he's been frustrated with me and my inability to get some of these things done. Part of it is just, I've had my attention divided. I've got, I tell my kids excuses are good only for the people that tell them. And I'm up here telling you excuses the whole time. But, I'm very busy, but I am focused on this now. The picture that you see on your screen illustrates my neighboring property where Bill lives. He's very close to the road. I understand why he might have, this setback, especially for the aesthetic component. You don't want a bunch of, maybe you don't want houses right up on the street. The other picture that she showed you, the rear of the house, that's not my house. That's when I pull out of Hopewell Grove, that's what I look at. That's what I look at. It's another house. It's another house. That is taken from the sidewalk directly across the street. There's no trees in front of it, or just that one, the little skinny tree. If you grant this variance for me, I'm going to have 30 feet of densely wooded area. As a matter of fact, on the picture where Lisa was standing, it's very hard to see her. She's a little tiny pink thing in the middle. She's standing at what would be the back of the garage. Now, I did take that with a little, a standard lens, so there's no telephoto there, but that's about what you would see if you were standing at the fence. I had heard that, we could build this garage a little bit closer. You only need 14 feet. If I were to build this this garage 14 feet from the house, I'm going to have less than the length of my truck to back out. I would have to leave the garage doors open on the other side so I could back into it just to get out and turn. I need a little more than maybe 14 feet is the minimum. But what I'm trying to do is build, a significant garage which would hold 2 cars deep at the back portion where it's most densely wooded on that portion of the property. And I need the room to do it. We once had my older son come by, and he borrowed one of the cars, and he left it in the middle of the driveway. And he took the key with him. He took the only key we had there, and nobody could get out of any of the garages. I don't want that to happen. Again, I doubt that's going to happen, but I'd like, if I'm going to build a garage area, which is fairly substantial and will be aesthetically pleasing and has been, I might add, approved by the Homeowners Association and the board of which I am a member. But I need it set back enough that it would be appropriate so that a car can back out and still potentially have a car parked out there. Cars are my passion, and I really enjoy them. I love living here in the city of Milton. My younger son goes to Cambridge High. He is a junior. I plan to be here after he graduates. And this garage is going to help me. It's going to help me explore what I really enjoy while I stay where I really enjoy being. I've lived in the city of Milton since well before it was established in 2006, and I like it here. And I really have no complaints about the community in general or even this process has been a learning experience for me. But I need your help. I listened to that a little earlier, and I know Angela's got to spell out the facts, but it sounded terrible. But I'm not terrible. Doing the best I can. I'll choose wisely with reference to contractors. I'm going to pay a lot more attention, and I'm not going to leave town very much while I do this. Okay, I've learned all these lessons. Please help me with this variance. Do you have any questions?
I've got a couple. Do you have a homeowners association?
We do.
And did you give approval from them prior to any of this?
I did. We had a meeting last month, and I've sat as the chair of the Architectural Control Board for, who knows, I don't even know how many years. Usually not a whole lot comes up. This has been, a big topic, but myself and Craig were the two attending the meeting. There's only 3 of us, and it takes 2 out of 3 to vote. We voted for it. I've since contacted the 3rd person. They're absolutely fine. Actually, everybody on the street is. And if the meeting wasn't rescheduled a couple of times, I'd have some people here with me. I think that they saw the sign go up again with another date, and I think that
Do you have
they
it in
just
writing, sir?
didn't- I'm sorry?
Do you have the approval in writing?
Well, I have the meeting. I do not have anything in writing with me, but
Okay, thank you.
I certainly could.
And this, you did this last month. What about prior to the original contractor going out doing work? Did you get approval from the homeowners association for any of that?
No, it wasn't going to be as extensive at that point. We've done some landscaping work without that specific requirement. I did talk to others in the neighborhood, including Craig, and it only takes 2. So we didn't have a formal meeting. We very rarely have them. But they were aware of what was going on. As a matter of fact, two others in the neighborhood were doing similar work. Jim across the street, who is now the chairman of the board, was actually installing a pool that this contractor talked him into, and it was a 2-for-1 deal almost with the 2 of us. So,
Do you have a letter from your neighbors stating that they're okay with this?
no, but I'm fairly certain I could get that if we need to go through that formality. Yeah.
That's all the questions I have. Yes, sir?
Angela, this site plan is not the site plan that's on page 9. And the reason why I'm concerned that this site plan that we were given is slightly different than what the architectural plan is of the garage you're proposing to build. Can you help me understand, because the print is so small, what the dimensions are of your garage that you're proposing to build?
Yeah, I believe it's 54 feet in length. The depth is 40 feet in the back T section. Yeah, there you go. You can see a little bit better. And the idea was that I'd be able to put, in that longer section, I'd be able to put 2 cars front to back without extending the garage and making it look like just a house that sits next to a very long garage. At least this would be appropriate to the house. It's similar in depth from the front road.
Okay. And I'm in agreement with you. To back a car out, you cannot do it in 18 feet. Perhaps if it was a Shriners Club car, perhaps. But,
Yeah, smart car.
but to do a regular car, you need typically 25 to 30 feet. And looking at the dimensions, at least what I've got shown, that's why I was trying to make sure what I'm looking at, that dimension from the existing house to your proposed garage looks like somewhere, at least on this plan now, you're probably in the 45 range, maybe even as much as 50. It's not, and I can't really read that dimension.
Yeah, I think it says 44.
44? Okay,
44.6.
I was pretty close for just guesstimating,
yeah.
so 45. But again, it could be a situation where, if 30 is your minimum dimension that you really need to get a car out fairly comfortably, and let's say you even went an extra 5, say 35, it looks like your real encroachment is the 30. I'm wondering is there any way possible that perhaps maybe a little bit of the back might be encroaching, but if we could get it moved over 10 more feet, you would still have sufficient room to back out. And believe me, I've been involved with designing and laying out garages for 30 years. And I can assure you, unless you have a boat or an RV, and that could be a case. That's why I was wondering about this design, because some boat doors and garages are such that you could pull a larger vehicle in there, in which case you would need a larger. But even in that case, you have extra room potentially there that is a little bit bigger if it's 45 feet. So I'm wondering if you get it down to 35, if you still couldn't make things work a little bit better and perhaps get yourself into less issues, because that helps us eliminate the view shed. I guess that gets it out of the view shed. It helps us with a number of little issues that may come up. And I was wondering why that dimension of 45 was important. I guess that's the question.
It's actually, 45 wasn't. I talked to the architect and others that live on the street, and there was some thought that if at a certain distance it may, I don't even know that I completely agreed with this, but that at a certain distance it felt like the garage would overpower the house, so separating it a little more gave it a different aesthetic component. That's subjective. I could move it in. I could move the garage in some. I don't necessarily need all of that space. I didn't want to get down to 18 feet.
I agree with you. But I think, again, even with the architectural characteristics, perhaps, breaking up perhaps the front so it's not tying itself so directly with the front house with landscaping or something to, now, of course, what you do once you look in front of the garage, garages are garages. I'm not sure you can make anything look different without putting some pots in between them or something like that. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. But to move it closer, I think would help resolve many of the issues for the setbacks, and that's why I was concerned. This plan shows pretty much a rectangular garage, and yours is not quite a. Right, I understand, and this one's a little bit more of a cross to some degree, and I just want to make sure if there's some way that we can look at it. And then lastly, where is exactly your septic tank? I know one of the problems with the hardship was saying there wasn't a ability to move it to the back of the house, and I know many people have 3 or 4 or 5 car garages at the rear of their house where they actually have a porte-cochere that they drive underneath, and then they go to the back of their garage. Where exactly is your septic field?
It's in the front yard, so it's not somewhere where I could build. So yeah, it is not in the back.
Well, let me stop you for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Even though your septic field may be in the front, by code, anyone who's on septic has to have a reserve area. And that reserve area, you may or may not know it, but you also have to have that area available to put your septic system in case the front area fails.
Okay.
So most houses designate an area. Now, I don't know how old your home is, but the health code is such in the county that they do require a secondary field area.
Sure. Well, I would plan to be in full compliance. I don't know exactly how to comply with that. I mean, it's been there since 1999, so I imagine if that's required, it's there. I'm certain that, or I'm near certain, because I don't know exactly what a reserve area is, but I would be reasonably certain that it wouldn't be in the garage area over here. The driveway that we're proposing is over the present driveway, so I'm, fairly certain they wouldn't have used that. As for the back of the, I'm sorry.
So the septic is not a hardship reason, is what I'm trying to get to. The
Oh,
septic
no,
doesn't
it's
define
the-
that as being a
I
hardship.
don't think we'd even consider building there anyway, and I can't imagine what the neighbors would say then.
Any other questions?
So can I ask about the backyard?
Sure.
You talked about just increasing the vegetation in the backyard and specific plans for that. Can you walk us through your thought process there?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I talked to, I have, a rather impressive drawing of that, and I don't have it with me. I didn't think that was going to be an issue tonight. And I don't know that those are our final plans anyway, because the cost associated with it was a little higher than I anticipated. But I've talked to a landscape architect, and they've come up with an initial design, although they admitted to me during the conversation that it might be better to decide where the garage is going to be, what is going to be there, and then tie everything together after that. So what I have is a design that's to the right of the garage area to redo the backyard, because right now it's exposed. You can come down Francis Road, and a lot of my sons and a lot of my friends over at the high school everybody knows us, which house we are, and has the little lean-to out back. But we do have a plan for that back area that has a variety of plants. Cryptomera, I know with some of them, but only a few. And he got so elaborate with what these plants are, I can't recite them. But, and again, I don't know that that's completely, we haven't solidified that, but I would like to do something there in short order. The plan was that we would, I'd see where the garage is going to be. I'd get a contractor to just take care of all of this. From what I understand, they're going to need that area in the back to potentially move some dirt. And so I didn't want to put in plants prior to getting that construction done.
Your existing garage?
I'm sorry?
Your existing garage?
I'm
Do you
sorry.
have an existing garage?
There is an existing garage in the house.
Okay, and I'm just looking at what's on the screen right now. Walk me through, I guess, I don't see it.
Okay, well, it's right there.
Is that,
That's it.
okay.
It's a
And your-
three-car garage right
And your
there.
plan is to keep it as a garage?
Oh, I do.
Okay,
And that's a 3-car.
That's a 3-car.
so, okay.
And you have no problem getting cars out of the 3-car garage?
No, I mean, the driveway's a little short for it, but in fact, if my 16-year-old tries to get a car out, he sometimes has an issue. And it's a little bit of a small garage. It's a 3-car garage, but one is a 2-car bay. It's a, but no, I've lived there for quite a while, and I do just fine.
That's all I have.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, we'd like to open the floor for public comment, if there is any. Being that there is none, you do have the opportunity to make a closing statement if you would like.
Well, before I'll say thank you so much for listening to me so far, and please, if you have any questions about this that'll help you decide in my favor to get this taken care of, feel free to ask me, of course, now or anytime after this, but of course I'd like some approval tonight. Again, I do want to reiterate that what he said about, and Walt said about the compromise here in terms of that 44 feet 6 inches, if moving it up 10 feet helps make this happen, makes it a little easier for you, I'm not opposed to that at all. Again, this was somewhat subjective, and I wasn't really sure of it myself, but I just thought, we go in there and ask for everything we might possibly need, and then now hear your perspective and
Thank you.
have a different view. Thank you.
I do have one question before the applicant leaves. if I
Cool.
can.
Yes, sir.
Would you be opposed to presenting a smaller footprint to be in compliance and not need to go through the variance process? A 10-car garage in total seems a lot.
Well, it's all relative, but Jay Leno would disagree with you.
Well,
But,
I'm just
no, I
I'm
understand.
trying to consider, there's 4 considerations that
Sure.
and you have to meet all 4 of them. One is the spirit and intent, extraordinary and exceptional conditions, causing detriment, and public safety and welfare. And I'm struggling with, you meeting all 4 of those.
Sure, what is it, which one are you,
Spirit and intent in particular.
the spirit of it?
The spirit and
Okay.
intent of the ordinance is so that we don't have large structures in these areas. And this is a very large structure. Footprint is significant.
Okay, yeah, well, it's not nearly as significant as that house I showed you across the street, which is fully exposed, and I don't think anybody's doing anything to conceal it. Mine will be a lot more concealed, even if you leave it at 44 feet 6 inches. It'll be fully shielded from the road relative to the perspective of my neighboring property. I mean, I think I'm a fairly agreeable guy. I just, I've worked hard, and I feel like I'd really like to put in this garage. It is a lot more than what other people might like. My hobby is cars, and this would allow me to. I had thought at one point, my office is in Kennesaw, and it has been for years. We own the building out there. I bought a house for my older son, 0.6 of a mile from our office. I thought about moving out there. My older son goes to Kennesaw State now, and I even wind up staying at his house some nights because it's so close to my office. But I like it here. I like my home. I like my home. I like that home. And I'm sorry, I'm pointing at it on that piece of paper there, or the screen that I see over there. I like that home. The only thing that I change about it is that it doesn't allow me to explore my hobby. I put a 3-car garage in my son's house. I have 2 cars in it. He only uses one of the garages. My intent was to pull 2 of them out and put them back here. Yeah, I don't want to seem disagreeable, so of course I could work on it. But I'd really like this garage, and it will not be a detriment to the community.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions to staff from the board?
Angela, it looks like one of the recommendations from the staff is if we do approve this, that the city architect needs to review and approve it prior to the issuance of the building permit. Help me understand, what does the design review board do? I mean, I thought they review the plans and then, I mean, I'm just trying to understand how different things happen.
Well, I guess the bottom line is the design review board does not review single-family houses.
Okay.
It's a specific, and actually I didn't need to put that condition here, it's kind of redundant, but it's a specific requirement of the view shed that the architect review the plans for any new structures on the exterior lots, because basically we don't want 4 stories of siding.
Sure.
You know, you don't want to drive down the road and see 4 stories of siding and a deck. So one of the requirements is the architecture review at the 360 architecture, and then the landscape is approved by the arborist.
And if he does move the building in 10 feet, does that get it out of this rural view shed issue? Does that?
By my math, so he's 30 feet away now, so he'll be 40 feet away, so he'll be out of the undisturbed buffer, but he'll still be in the impervious setback, and he'll still be in the minimum front yard.
Okay, and what is the purpose of the 20-foot no improvement setback? What is?
Originally, we wanted, you know, a 60-foot clear zone, but we kind of compromised that. The city kind of compromised and gave the builders, developers, whoever, a little more flexibility with that last 20 feet, because we realized he may need to grade or, you know, hardscape or whatever.
And are the pictures he's showing us as dense? Maybe I have to ask the city's landscape architect. Are the trees and foliage so thick along that side of Francis Road as depicted in that picture that was shown to us? I mean,
And he is right at the front of the subdivision. It's a pretty good cover from what I've seen.
Okay, because I just
He
want to
does or
make sure,
does not?
He does.
He does,
That's
okay.
accurate.
Sorry, okay, thank you.
because I don't want to do something contrary and find out that, you know, once again, the whole intent is, how does it impact the neighborhood? What, are we in harmony? Are we causing a problem that would be of detriment by being able to see it? So I'm just trying to understand, you know,
Well, I would assume you could see more of it in the winter than you could in the
Right. I don't know
Sure, but
exactly what.
that's
Like
like anybody else in Georgia.
Right.
well, I don't know if that's true, because the plants that I saw looked like they were either, they were either Leland's or they were cryptomeria. So I don't know. That's why I asked the question that I did. That they
Mark
look
may be able to
deciduous.
tell you. I don't know exactly what kind of trees they are. It did look like there were quite a few
Does
evergreens.
Mark know?
They are Leyland cypress trees, and if anybody knows, if anybody has Leyland cypress trees, they are kind of problematic. They're planted fairly close together, so that could be a problem where in the future, if it's not thinned out, given the proper sunlight and air, then you could lose some of that.
But one of the conditions is that you would have to approve the landscape plan. Is that correct? So would that be something you could look at during that process? Okay.
He's
Mr. Tree?
required to.
Right.
I had a question regarding the site plan issues that Walt identified. The proposed site plan in the packet doesn't replicate or reference the proposed layout. The surveyed plan that's signed dated. Rather, we have on page 9 a site plan that's very small. There's no real scale references here, dating or any otherwise. Does the city have any of this information, site plan dated and reference?
Well, I guess this is a, architectural site plan as opposed to a survey. But this is the one that's on the screen is the latest and greatest. I received an electronic copy of this, so that's why I don't have hard copies, but what you see there is what I received. I can print out, 11 by 17s right quick if you want to see them.
No, what I'm concerned with is we're not able to identify the amount of encroachment that the applicant is requesting.
Well, it is there, and I tried to write in some of that because I realized it was small, but I can go back to the keyboard and play with it a little, but the distance from the property line, I'm not sure where he was measuring there, but to the corner of the garage is about 30 feet. And then the distance from, I think I wrote that on there. Let me find my copy.
Given the problems and the challenges that this applicant has had with contractors and with the city, I think it would behoove us to have something that was precise that we were reviewing and approving.
Well, before he
Right,
gets the permit, he's going to have to.
submit a plan.
When you're applying for a building permit, you don't have to have like a survey. You can do this as long as it's drawn to scale. So this would meet.
The minimum requirements, but not that of a stop order, bounce check, scenario. That's my concern.
Right. That's why I requested this, because I knew some things had changed from what you see on page 10. So, I wanted to see exactly what the overall plan was, and that's what this is. That's on the screen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and my next question is, okay, so one variance is to allow the accessory structure to be located in the front yard. The front yard, as I understand it, is it within the building setback along Francis Road?
So the front yard, in this case, by that I mean the ordinance states that an accessory structure has to be either in the side or the rear. So in this case, he has two fronts. So in this case, the garage is in one of his fronts.
Okay, and then that's the next one then, I'm asking, what is to be located in the side corner setback? That's what I was trying to understand with the side corner. So in other words, as you say, the front setback for Francis Road, he's within that, but he's not within the front yard setback of Hopewell Grove Drive.
Correct. Side corner setback is the shorter of the two fronts. You got the front, I'm sorry, it's the front, the actual front when you're on a corner is the shorter of the two
Right,
sides.
right.
And so in this case,
The
Francis
shorter
Road is his
front.
side corner, and he
Oh.
is in that minimum yard.
Okay. All right, so,
This structure is going to be 30 foot from Francis Road and 40 foot off of Hopewell Grove, which is encroaching. In the front
It's
and the
more
side.
than, it's 60, let me see it's 30 feet off of Francis, and
Build line right here, 40 foot. Maybe it's 45.
you're right, actually, you're right, it's 40 feet off of Hopewell Grove.
okay, so is there really a variance being requested on the front yard then for Hopewell Road? The answer is no. Not for Hopewell?
No, he has two fronts.
Okay, all right. So I wanted to, if I was going to define something, I would say to allow an accessory structure or garage to be located in the front yard. What I don't want to do is allow them to be in both of the front yards because of what you're saying.
Well, right, I mean,
So the only front yard he could be in is the front yard of Francis Road.
his front, his official front is along Francis Road.
Right. And then same thing to allow an accessory structure. Now, if we were gonna, if he, you know, if we were able to convince him to move the building over and get 10 feet over, instead of being 30 feet at the closest point, and again, I have to kind of look at that other detailed plan, looks like it could be 40 feet, but the main body of the structure is gonna be, you know, some of it's gonna be out, some of it might be in, but the main body of it will get us back to where less of it's actually in the,
It'd be 40 feet on both sides then, right?
It could be
right.
less.
Right.
Because he's got
Is that right, Angela? If
But
he
it's that
moved it
little
back 10
triangle
feet,
or little square part in the back.
he'd be 40 feet from Francis Road and Hopewell Grove Drive?
He'd be 40 feet from Francis Road, and
40 feet.
Hopewell Grove Drive,
We have both of them. If he moved it back 10
Actually,
feet.
he's a little more than 40 feet from
Okay.
Hopewell
Right.
Grove Drive.
And again, the things that the staff is asking for, if we considered it, would be, again, to make sure the garage is reviewed by the staff, make sure a landscape plan is reviewed by the staff, because I'm not sure why the city architect needs to review the landscape plan. I'd rather make sure that city arborists review it.
Did I write that wrong? I may have written it wrong.
Yeah, but I'd rather have the city arborist. And,
Yeah, that's supposed to be arborist.
Angela, let me ask a question. In the letter from the applicant, he talks about that the rear lot is unusable because of the septic system. But yet, tonight, he said his septic system's in the front. Do we know which it is?
We did discuss that, but I don't have a plan showing the location of the septic system.
Because I don't understand why it can't go in the back if it's in the front.
I mean, it seems like there's a lot of usable space on this lot.
I mean, and I think the chairman's comment that the large structure, and he wants to follow his hobby, which I agree with, follow your passion, but let's put it in a logical place that,
When this all started, I think somewhere in there was a plan where the garage actually was in back, but I think that got changed when we started moving dirt around for the retaining wall and the pool that was going back there one time. I don't know
but there's no pool there today.
what happened, but,
But there's no pool?
no, and.
There's just a retaining
He
wall.
said he's not gonna build one right now.
Okay.
okay,
Counselor,
Sir?
can we reopen the applicant part of this so we can ask him some more questions? Can we do a motion and do that or not? Because-
Sure, and my understanding is you're still asking questions of staff and applicant, but
Do we need to make a motion, or can we just bring him up?
I don't recall whether you
We have not
officially
closed it.
declared, yeah, right, then you're still in the position where you can ask questions of the applicant.
Okay.
Sir, will you come back up, please, and tell us why, if the septic system's in the front, tell us why you can't build a garage in the back.
The back of the yard, and I didn't send her this picture, but I have a picture with me, so bear with me just a moment. I started flipping through here, just to give you a picture of the backyard and where we are now. There's there's two levels to the property. I'm gonna walk forward so you may
Just
know.
hand it to Angela.
This is a picture of the backyard, and there's a significantly high retaining wall that's been installed, and so the garage level is approximately 9 feet, I think, higher than the backyard level.
The proposed garage level.
The proposed garage level is level with the front of the property.
Right.
The backyard sits about 9 feet
Okay.
lower.
That's what, just, right.
Yeah, okay.
Just making sure, I just want to make sure.
Okay, that's fine. I
I'd
didn't know
rather
if I
ask
was
a question
articulate.
than assume something, so.
Yeah, I did.
not sure what I'm looking at.
I'm not either.
No, I just had the one.
So what, was this retaining wall for the pool? Is that why this was put in?
Well,
Am I-
no, as a matter of fact, it wasn't. When he talked about putting in a pool, that area wasn't even going to be cleared. I came back and found my
So
trees.
what was the purpose of the retaining wall?
To fix the property. I talked to some contractors, and when we settled on
Fix it how?
to put it back in a state that would be livable. It was It was left in, you know, abysmal condition. There were piles of mud, and there were dead trees knocked over.
See, the
Just,
garage is on the opposite side.
and
You didn't have the garage?
so this is what he proposed. He proposed getting the grade even
This area looks like it's over here.
and putting in this
Where's,
one.
where's the big one? Because that's backwards.
Just a second. Back there.
Sure.
Yeah, this is totally different from the drawing that we have.
Is that
That's
retaining
what-
wall on the back of the house or the side of the house?
That's the back of the house, and it's on that drawing that you're looking at. You can see that U-shaped retaining wall there
Is
towards the
that your
back of the
house
property.
in the picture?
The house is, yes, yeah. The house is in the
So
picture.
that's the side
Oh,
of
no,
your
no,
house.
I'm sorry. The house in the picture. I'm looking at the picture
This
on our
one.
screen. No, that's a neighboring property behind it. Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's where I was going. I don't get it.
Oh, I
That one
got you.
either.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
yeah. No wonder.
Okay. All right, so where his thumb is really the ground that is,
Hold that up so you can see that.
so where his right hand is the area nearest the garage.
That's where the garage is gonna go.
That is the level of the garage, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
it sure is.
now we got
Okay.
it.
Now,
Can I have,
Sure, absolutely, ask a question.
why in the world did a contractor grade the back of your property the way that they did? If that isn't even in the realm of direction of where you're putting a garage?
Man, I would like to know that. Actually, he was grading some of the property off because he was going to put in a pool very close to the
This is way more
house.
than
now.
grading, though. This is clear cutting.
Well, he did. He clear cut the back of the property. Took it all the way out to the neighbor's house. Every single tree we have out there. He actually did something similar across the street to my neighbor Jim, and
Well, it doesn't
and-
look
and
like,
ripped
because
up-
we can see Jim's property on here, and he's got plenty of trees.
okay.
Across the street.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Jim had some different issues. He had what you may not see on your picture. I'm not sure what you're looking at. Is the hardscape, his hardscape that he that was installed prior to him purchasing the house.
We're not hearing back
Sure,
tonight.
sure. I
so-
just,
What are you gonna do with the area that's inside the retaining wall?
we're going to plant grass and we have a landscape plan. So, yeah.
Okay.
all right, well,
And any other questions for the
yes,
applicant?
I do. So let's say you were going to build a garage that was perpendicular to the wall, so that the back of your garage would be
Right here.
So, facing that other house,
right. In other
Okay.
words,
face the.
if I hold this picture up, and you did build the garage back here where my finger is.
Yes.
Everybody see that?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm gonna do that again.
Okay, okay.
Okay? It looks to me, because the way you built that wall, that you could be outside the rear building setback.
Right, and this.
Yeah, I don't think it'll fit back there.
This is right here.
Of the house, I guess,
So
or
you
getting
won't-
close
It
to
won't
it,
fit in the back,
if you,
not the way they did the retaining wall.
Because of the self-imposed
Yeah,
hardship of
well,
so in other words, why can't the garage go back there? I guess that's the question I think that you're hearing.
Okay, well, for a couple of reasons. One, you know, of course, aesthetics are subjective, but to have a house, to have the garage set out from the house, I think would create, you know, an aesthetic anomaly. Number two, we have, no garages can be facing the street in our development, so I can't have the garage doors facing the street. They have to face another direction. So for those two reasons. But Todd, if I may ask, what did I do something to upset you?
No, we're discussing
yeah.
the layout and the confusion on that picture.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I didn't even, you know, I don't know how to do this. I'm doing the best I can.
Well, and that concerns me. As I said, not having specifics, just, we're gonna just repeat the same cycle, and we're trying to stop the cycle.
Yeah, well, let's get
I'm trying to
specific,
stop the
Todd.
cycle.
What specific?
I have been in your boat about 5 times in the city of Alpharetta, and when I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, what you're doing is the hardest thing in the world, because you don't know what you don't know, and everybody gives you different advice, so I understand where you're standing.
All right.
So I just want you to know that I know what you're trying to say, and it's not always easy to answer questions, because you don't know the answers, because until the thing's built, you're not exactly, I get where you are.
Sure. Gary, thank you. And Todd, to answer your question from before, you're like, well, 10 cars, isn't that a bit excessive? You know, and because maybe it's too deep. But if I didn't make it so deep, it'd be an 8-car. Does that work better for you? I would have less cars and maybe you'd be a little happier. I don't understand. I just sense some reluctance to work
This
with me
isn't the
here.
forum for you to address me.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant?
And again, you have no problem moving it 10 feet or over closer towards the home
No, I'd be amenable to that, of course. Of course.
and getting it out of the hardship for the, okay.
You know, you still need off-grade variances.
I understand.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions to staff? At this
So
time.
let me ask one question.
Sure.
If it was granted and he moved over 10 feet, am I looking at, you know, I love writing variances up where they have a maximum dimension that they're actually encroaching into the setback. In other words, if that's where I think I'm back to where, am I looking at a maximum of a 15-foot encroachment into the front yard setback?
It's 60
On
foot
Francis
setback.
Road?
It's 30 now, so you'd have a 20-foot encroachment.
Okay, so it'll be a 20-foot encroachment?
It's 30 now.
It is?
It looks bigger than
On the
30.
new-
Sorry,
new-
it's 30 feet into the front. Yeah, it's 30 feet into the front 60-foot setback.
Okay,
So if you moved it back 10 feet,
It would be 20
20,
feet into
20,
the 60
right?
foot, yes.
And you're looking at the site plan that's up on the screen? It's 30
That's
feet?
30 feet,
that,
which matches the one that we have here.
Right.
This is still 30 on this, the
I
old
think
drawing.
they're both still at that
Same.
30-foot encroachment.
Okay.
okay. So again, it would be like to allow an accessory structure to be located within 20 feet, inside 20 feet of the front yard setback of Francis Road.
It would be 40 feet from Francis Road, which would be a 20-foot encroachment into the minimum yard.
20-foot encroachment, yes. That's correct.
And then the second one would also be a 20-foot encroachment. In other words, to allow an accessory structure to be a 20-foot encroachment located to the side corner setback of Francis Road.
Well, the front yard, okay, I see what you mean. The front yard's the front yard, so.
That's right.
To me, it's, you know,
But what I don't want anybody to do is interpret that they could move into the front yard setback of Hopewell Road or into the side corner setback of Hopewell Grove Drive. That's why I'm.
You mean Francis Road? not
No, no,
Hopewell
no,
Road.
no.
This is exactly what we're trying to avoid.
That's what we're trying to
Okay.
avoid.
No, but you said Hopewell Road. There is no
No,
Hopewell
no,
Road.
Hopewell Grove
I
Drive.
know, okay.
So what I want to do is differentiate it, just say what it's encroachment for Francis Road and 20-foot
Okay,
encroachment.
yeah, you said Hopewell Road. not-
Okay, I
Sorry, I'm
understand.
just making sure that we're all on the same
No,
page here.
no. And then the last one will be to allow an accessory structure to encroach a maximum of 20 feet into the rural view shed, not 60 feet.
so it'd be 20 feet instead of 30 again, yeah.
Is that right? Did I get that number right?
Mhm.
And again, it's not all of it, it's just a part of it, that hopefully you're moving it, you've got it on the angle slightly, so.
And that would keep them out of the undisturbed buffer.
Correct. So, okay, I'm just trying to make sure I have my numbers correct with the staff. And then all the other stuff, as far as the recommendations.
And that's a building permit, not work on the building permit. On the new garage. And that's arborist.
Right.
Just so
Okay.
you know.
I just want to make sure
Here's, well, go ahead and close that. and just
No, I'm sorry,
We'll get a
I'm
motion
done.
and then I'll discuss.
Okay, any other questions? At this time, we'd like to close the public hearing. And the floor is open for a motion. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to approve V14-013. This is to allow an accessory structure, a garage, to encroach 20 feet into the front yard of Francis Road, to allow an accessory structure, a garage, to encroach 20 feet into the side corner setback of Francis Road. And then lastly, to allow an accessory structure, a garage, to encroach a maximum of 20 feet into the rural view shed with the conditions that the plan for the garage shall be reviewed and approved by the city architect prior to the issuance of a building permit. The building will be designed with a 360-degree architecture. Number 2, the landscape plan for the project shall be reviewed and approved by the city arborist prior to the issuance of the building permit. And a building permit on the new garage shall not commence until the current issues with the house and site are fixed.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Within this motion, there's no reference to any site plans, which, given the lack of site plans, is what has gotten this applicant into some of the water that we're in. So I have very significant concerns with that.
That is something.
Second, I mean, just
Okay,
rattle them
I'm
off,
sorry.
we can address them
Sure.
all. Secondly, as I said earlier, I don't believe that this applicant has met the threshold of satisfying the 4 conditions for a variance, all 4. For one, the spirit and intent of the ordinance is a concern for me. I do not believe that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions other than self-imposed, and there's nowhere that anyone's entitled to having a 7-car garage built on their property, so that's not an entitlement. So those 2 issues really concern me, and it's not fitting with the surroundings at all. And it's bordering a main thoroughfare, Francis Road. So,
One, I'm a little concerned with, but at the same time, believes, we don't have a letter from the homeowners association. It says it's been approved, but at the same time, there are no letters objecting to it, so perhaps they negate one another.
And nobody's here.
And nobody's here, so that negates each other. I am concerned, Walt, with the last part of your, let's go to that page, until the current issues with the house are fixed. I'd like to be a lot more specific about that. I'm afraid that I don't want the applicant to get in more trouble because staff interprets it one way and he interprets it another way. If we reference the first page saying, hey, here are the items, because I don't want him getting in more trouble. I want him to understand exactly what the rules of the game are. This is what I have to do. He may choose not to do them and say, screw this, I'm moving. But I want to make that his call and not leave.
If we
set him up for
address
failure.
that as the site plan review comments from Jimmy Sanders, those kind of delineate what I see as that.
Right, and I would agree, because, except wasn't there there's a typo in here, did we see that earlier?
no, these are all clear. These are
Are these the correct
on
ones?
page 4.
Yes, sir.
Page 4, yes.
Yes, sir.
In the section, in view of the history of this project, the following conditions are in order,
Right,
and probably asked to amend,
right. And just so you
just so
know,
there's clarity here.
a building permit has to be obtained to get the garage permit, in which case a site plan has to be submitted that would very much in detail delineate the project and make sure that all the conditions of this variance are met. So it's not like they're not going to submit a site plan.
Right, I understand, okay. But
Okay, I agree with you. I'll be glad to amend it.
sure.
Any other decision? Any other discussion?
One other thing, the garages,
I think it makes sense.
he made a point that garages by their HOA is not to face the street. So again, the garage, if you could put it in the back of the house, it could be facing the street
Yeah,
within 7.
but I think that rule typically is if the garage is in the front of the house, if you can't see the garage in the back, I've never seen an HOA
Right,
say, hey, it's facing the street, but we still can't see it, but we don't like it. Give me a break.
right. Okay.
Yes, sir?
No, you know, my only thoughts would be the whole thing with the grading situation. You know, if that wouldn't have happened,
It'd be a
very
very
good
different scenario.
likelihood that this could be put in the back, we'd be avoiding all these issues.
Right.
You know, so again, that's something that,
I
again,
mean-
we weren't there, we don't know what happened with the whole process, but, you know, if I'm constructing something and I've got a contractor and I understand I may be pretty busy, somebody's around, my wife, whoever is there to figure out what's going on, you know, hey, this is going on in the back here, hey, there's this retaining wall now back here, there's all these things that are back there now that potentially, you know, have now restricted him from building this garage over there. And again, building a 10-car garage, that's fine, you know, if that's what you like to do, that's great, and you can do that, but this could have been done in the backyard.
Right.
And now all of a sudden it's gonna be potentially put in the front yard, you know.
And one of the problems is this rural view shed is something that the city just recently passed. This is a new ordinance. It was not something that was considered, even discussed back when this home was originally platted, or for that matter, when they were configuring the lots, where they could have made the lot wider or deeper to avoid this view shed issue. This is something the city started recently. And as far as the grading is concerned, again, I'm like you, I wasn't there, but when I look at where it would go and how it would relate to the house, I don't see that as being a big problem. I think this does relate well to the house and kind of keeps it looking like the neighborhood. And I have a lot of faith in our arborist to do a good job in screening it both from the street as well as Francis Road and Hopewell Grove Drive. But I kind of see that could work, but.
Yeah, but Todd makes a valid point, and particularly, I'm just reading the second portion of the consideration, that there's extraordinary exceptional conditions or circumstances to the property. Some of these are self-imposed. Now, I recognize it was as contractors, but ultimately, as homeowners, we're responsible for what happens. And does this meet that requirement?
Again, back to at least the way I look at the topography, you've got a elevation 90, 100, and an elevation 90.
Yep.
So there's a 10-foot drop
Sure.
that would be consistent from the right-hand side to the
Yep.
back. So from a standpoint of topography, that was one of the things. And then again, as far as shape goes, again, this is an interesting situation where if this was an interior lot, we would allow this. And I'd have to stop and ask Angela's, but a side yard setback for an interior lot, is it
25 feet.
10 feet or
25 for AG1.
Right.
25?
Yeah,
So-
yeah, I agree.
So in other words, if it was interior, he'd be pretty much close to what he wanted to do. But again, he's at a corner lot, but again, it's got fairly good screening, and we're going to ask him to beef up the screening. So from the standpoint of shape and size, it's a corner lot. That's what's causing the problem. If it was an interior lot, it wouldn't be an issue. If it was, the topography was the other side of that, and again, just looking at the pictures from what's across the street on Francis Road and what he's got, and confirming from staff that it is pretty dense, and with also putting that condition there, I think overall we're not going to diminish this area, and like you said, there's no one here objecting.
Right.
And
Yeah, I
I mean-
don't know how much, though, that we need to weigh that this case has been deferred for 3 months?
At least once.
Oh, it's more than once.
I think it's just once.
Well,
It was
Whatever.
deferred last month.
Well, it's been deferred a number of times, and I really have concerns. 2 out of 3 board members, he's one of them, made this call. So I don't, the whole homeowner association approval letter, board approval, that doesn't really carry much weight when you have those sort of percentages.
Now, Walt, also, again, you talked a little bit about you having a lot of experience with garages, so hypothetically, to even build a structure like this, but let's just say it's not 10 cars. how big could it be? How many cars could you probably fit in there that you could actually fit within the, so you don't have to actually get a variance? Could it be 5 cars? Could it be 6
Sure.
cars? Do you think that's possible?
I mean, again, it's a matter of angling the house, but again, you're looking at, and that's part of the problem, that's what's making this lot peculiar. It's a corner lot, you're following Francis Road. Francis Road is angling. Your front yard setback on Francis Road, or for that matter, side yard, whatever term you want to use, has to be parallel to the right-of-way of that road. It can't be on an angle. It's got to be exactly what Francis Road is. And again, the way he has the house, unfortunately, he's kind of trying to make it look parallel to the rear of the house and front of the house to give it some continuity. Whether now, could he square it up and make it square to the front setback of Hopewell Grove Drive and the other one to square it up and to fit it more in there, possibly. But I think, again, I always think of it, what am I really looking at? I see an imaginary line on a plat that nobody else in the world will see except for you and me looking at this plat. And that 60-foot line is there, but, what are we going to see from Francis Road? What are we going to see from Hopewell Grove Road? And that's where I kind of say, well, the garage kind of goes away. If it's 60 feet or 80 feet or whatever, you're only going to see the front part, and if it's screened well enough, you may not see any of that. And again, how thick it is along Francis Road, you may not see anything there. So again, I'm thinking, what am I fighting? It's kind of like the case I made with. Okay, well, sorry.
Any other discussion? You want to make a friendly amendment, Dan?
Yes, I do want to make a friendly amendment to clarify the last recommended condition. I'd like to amend that to reflect the items mentioned in the site plan review by Jimmy Sanders on page 4 of 14 of the rezoning package V14-013, to add those items 1 through 8.
We have a second.
Second.
Discussion?
Well, I'm sorry, may I?
Sure.
Can you read one more time your suggested?
I would like to amend.
No, I'm sorry, the whole
Sure.
shebang.
Can we approve the
I'm sorry,
friendly
I thought-
amendment? No.
I apologize, you're right, I just did a second, excuse me,
Yeah.
forgive me.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of adding the addition to the site plan review done by Jimmy Sanders, page 4 of 14 of the rezoning packet V14-013. Raise your right hand. Pose, same side.
No.
Okay. It passed 5-2.
Okay, one more time.
Now, do you want to, let me reread the whole thing then.
Yeah,
We have a motion and a second to approve V14-013 to allow an accessory structure or garage to encroach 20 feet into the front yard along Francis Road, to allow an accessory structure, a garage, to encroach 20 feet in the side corner setback on Francis Road, and to allow an accessory structure, a garage, to encroach a maximum of 20 feet into the rural view shed with the following conditions. The plans for the garage shall be reviewed and approved by the city architect prior to the issuance of a building permit. This building shall be designed with 360-degree architecture. The landscape plan for the project will be reviewed and approved by the city arborist prior to the issuance of a building permit. And the building permit on the new garage shall not commence until the current issues with the house and site are fixed. And that the site plan review conducted by Jimmy Sanders, page 4 of 14 of the rezoning packet, rezoning packet V14-013, numbers 1 through 8. That's the motion, that's the second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same side. Pass 4-3. Congratulations, good luck.
Good luck.
That brings us to V14-014, 13460 Providence Road. Angela, will you please present?
B14014. The site, 13895 Hopewell Road, is a single-family home on 8.28 acres. The property, a former horse farm, is located in the, what is now the rural Milton overlay. The property includes several paddocks, a garage, a barn, and a proposed metal building to be used as a warehouse. The applicant, Mr. Kroon, has proposed to subdivide the property into 2 lots, with one with 6.5 acres, the other with 1.7 acres. When Mr. Kroon presented the subdivision plat for review, staff discovered that the existing garage encroaches into the north property line by approximately 11.16 feet. Mr. Kroon states that the garage was existing when he purchased the property. Section 64.416 T2I states that accessory structures are to be located in the rear or side yard. Since this existing garage, should be located in the rear or side yard, but should not encroach into the minimum rear or side yard. Since this existing garage is in the side yard setback, a variance is required. Design Review Board on September 2nd, 2014, the DRB offered the following comments. Since the building is existing, approving this request should cause no harm to the neighborhood, and the board recommends approval of the request. Focus meeting on September 2nd, 2014 was held. Building plan review, site plan review, the arborist and DOT stormwater had no comments. The standards for consideration were stated earlier, and the applicant responds as follows. The lot is completely built up since 1978 with horse stables, corrals, and other structures. It has now come to our attention that the garage was not built in accordance with the specifications of the side yard setbacks. The variance would allow the building to legally exist where it was built prior to our purchase of the property. Staff response. Since this structure has been in place for several years, approval of this variance would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. The structure was existing when the applicant bought the property. This is an exceptional situation. Approval of this variance would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties as it is existing. Substantial justice would be done by approval of this variance. The alternative is the demolition and moving of the structure. Recommended conditions. Should the board choose to approve the application, staff recommends the following conditions. No other buildings are allowed in the setback. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends approval with conditions of this variance request. This concludes staff presentation.
Questions from the board to the staff?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at page 8 of 8. Is the structure that's in question,
And I do have larger site plans of this one if you would like.
This is dangerous for me.
can you identify the structure that's encroaching?
Yeah, I have one. Let's see. Where?
It's the most northerly building.
That's what I'm assuming, but I can't
So
tell.
it's the little garage here.
Oh, this little garage.
Where is it? I have no idea.
What
Is it this thing right here?
What's the larger?
There's a
that
garage,
a riding
a barn,
station?
the residence, the pool.
Where is it?
To the left.
Here, the yellow?
What's to the left of the garage?
What's this?
The yellow one.
I think that's what they're planning to build within the home.
So that small garage is encroaching, what's the two things noted above that, the circle and the rectangle?
Yes, the rectangular.
Those are corrals, they're fenced, that's fenced.
Fencing, okay.
Horse
Really good.
paddock or corral area.
So, I'm sorry,
That was the
help me,
one.
it's right here. Okay,
It's right.
gotcha.
It's right
That
there.
last
Okay.
one.
Do you want me to
Thank you.
Do you mind? Get a red marker.
pass that down so they can?
Todd,
Thank you. Highlighted on that one.
Any other questions to staff from the board? At this time, we'd like to invite the applicant forward to please present, and if you would state your name and address for the board, we'd certainly appreciate it.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Christina Cruden, and this is my mother. And I don't really know what to present. Basically, the garage that we are here in question about was existing when we purchased the property. I don't believe we're exactly sure the date that it was built, but we've learned that it's encroaching on the side yard setback, so we're just requesting a variance to allow it to remain existing where it is.
Any questions from the board?
may I ask when you bought the property?
Last year, I guess you
Yeah,
could
about
say
a year ago.
About a year
About
ago.
a year
Okay,
ago.
great, thank you.
And what type of garage is it? Is it got a concrete floor and
Yeah,
is it a
concrete floor.
concrete foundation?
Yeah, yeah, and it
So
it
it's not
has siding.
Okay.
Okay.
And how did you guys find out about that? That the garage is encroaching?
Angela find out.
They were subdividing property.
Subdivided.
When they're
They are
subdividing.
subdividing property, yeah, that's
Okay.
how we
This is right here.
So
find out.
that's there.
All right. And,
Everything's your fault.
Angela's fault. Any other questions to the applicant?
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any public comment?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
I'm the next door neighbor, and,
State your name and
Gary
address for the
Super.
board, please.
You
Gary
have to fill out a
Super.
comment card.
You have, Scott, just state your name and address,
State your
please.
name and address.
Name is Gary Super, 13440 Providence, and I thought they were gonna be built, all I got was the notice, so I didn't know that it was an existing piece. I thought it was something they were gonna build that I would then see, and so since it's existing, I have no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry you had to wait up so long.
There we Jerry?
Any questions to staff? Yes, sir.
Again, kind of checking on this requested variance, if I rephrase that to say that to allow an existing accessory structure, a garage to encroach maximum 12 foot into the side yard setback, I know it's 11.16, but just in case somebody measured an eve wrong or whatever, would that be close enough?
I mean, you're probably okay with the use of the word existing.
Existing.
Because
I understand what you're
I wouldn't want to
talking
have any
about.
conflict between, if they measured it completely wrong,
Right,
existing would cover what's there.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
Any other questions to staff? This time, we'd like to close the public hearing, and the floor is open for a motion. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion for approval of V 14-014. This is to allow an existing accessory structure, a garage, to encroach 12 feet into the side yard. And there's no recommended conditions. Oh, excuse me. The other recommendation is no other buildings are allowed in the setback.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, sir?
Can we take out the 12 feet?
Yeah, what compels you to put the 12 feet in?
The only thing is if they ever do an extension or an addition, I didn't want to allow that to occur. So that way, it just didn't say that it allowed anything to happen.
It's not existing.
Yeah.
Well, but it is an existing structure. It's,
But it would be an addition to an existing structure. It would,
I didn't know, so I always like you putting that 12-foot in.
Yeah, my recommendation would be just use existing.
Existing and call it a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, let's make this simple.
All right, we will need a,
Make an amendment.
I will amend my recommended motion to allow an existing accessory structure, a garage, to encroach into the side yard with a condition that no other buildings are allowed in the setback.
do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve V14-014 to allow an existing accessory structure, a garage, to encroach into the side yard with one condition, that no other buildings are allowed in the setback. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. It passed unanimously. Good luck.
Good luck. Thank you.
And thank you for choosing Milton. Good. Thank you.
Put them on this visit welcome committee.
V14-016
Put them on top of the horse.
to allow a fence to be closer than 3 feet to the right-of-way. Angela, will you please present?
Yes, sir. 14016. This site, 2925 Webb Road, is the site of a assisted living facility which is currently under development. It is located in the T5 transect zone of the Highway 9 Deerfield Form-Based Code, and the site consists of 2.057 acres. The applicant, David Vickers, is proposing to place a black wood horse-style fence on top of a 6-foot retaining wall, approximately 8 inches from the property line. This placement would allow adequate grading and drainage along State Route 9 and will allow for more room to slope the grades away from the building and assist in piping the drainage in that area. There will be approximately 14 feet from the retaining wall to the front of the building, which sits approximately 4 feet below the grade of the road. Section 4.7.1b states that a continuous fence is required in the first layer, which is between the face of the building to the road, with a minimum 3-foot wide landscape zone on the exterior of the fencing. The applicant proposes to place the fence on top of the modular retaining wall that will run along the edge of the property. While there is no separate 3-foot landscape area between the fence and the property line, there is a 10-foot landscape strip which includes existing vegetation along the edge of the right-of-way. For this reason, a variance is required. Design Review Board, September 2nd, 2014. The following comments. The board recommends approval of the request. Staff focus meeting on March 5th, 2014. I'm sorry, that was September 5th, 2014. Building plan review, site plan review, arborist, DOT stormwater, had no comments. The standard for consideration were read earlier, and the applicant responds as follows. This placement would allow for adequate grading and drainage along State Route 9 and will allow for more room to slope the grades away from the building and assist in piping the drainage in that area. The fence is required per the Highway 9 Form-Based Code and will add to the continuity of the area. Staff response. The fence is required per the Deerfield Highway 9 Form-Based Code, so allowing the fence on top of the retaining wall will support the spirit and intent of the ordinance. The placement of the fence on top of the wall would allow adequate grading and drainage along State Route 9 and will allow for more room to slope the grades away from the building and assist in the piping the drainage in that area. Allowing the fence along the property line will support the continuity of the area, as there is a fence along the development across the street. So allowing the change in location will not cause detriment to surrounding properties. Allowing this variance request will support the public safety, health, and welfare, and allow the building to be constructed without totally redeveloping the site and the addition of a substantial amount of dirt. Recommended conditions. Should the board choose to approve the application, staff recommends the following conditions. Staff has no conditions at this time. With staff recommendations, staff recommends approval of this request. This concludes the staff presentation.
Questions to staff from the board members? Yes, sir.
Just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, is that 3 foot required both on State Route 9 and Webb Road,
The landscape, yes,
the fence?
yes,
Okay.
The 3
And
foot
then
setback.
also, for some reason, it's also highlighted on my site plan in blue, the back property, which I'm not sure why. Are we in danger there with our fence?
I was just showing you where the fence was going. On the
Okay.
side property line, it can go up to the property line, but I was just
Okay.
making it easier to see the location of the
And then it
fence.
also looks like the fence stops and doesn't go where the parking lot is.
Yes, I guess the site, I guess it's the issue of the grade. I guess there's no road there, and I meant to ask the applicant about that. We would request that the fence itself be continued. I'm not sure why it's not shown there.
But it's just not highlighted, maybe,
Well, it's not
There's no fence
shown
post
for
either.
some reason.
but it is required.
We would require it, yes.
And would the request for the 3 foot being closer in that location also apply, or is it just?
We would continue the same
Okay,
location at the edge of the property.
okay, and are there going to be any problems with sight distance coming out from either of these locations because of the fence's location?
There shouldn't be. I mean, it's pretty much in the same location across the street,
Okay,
so.
all right.
Any other questions to staff?
The height of the fence that's required in this area is what?
4 feet.
4 feet.
I thought it was 5.
I'd have to,
I thought it was 5.
I think it may be 5.
So this retaining wall is essentially going to bring
I'm not sure.
it up to grade.
Right, right.
And then
The building is in a
I'm trying to get the overall height so it's
The building
on
is
top of the
about
retaining wall is going to be, top of the retaining wall will be at grade, so then it's 4 to 5 feet for the
even with
fence.
the road.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions to staff? At this time, we'd like to invite the applicant forward to present. If you'd please state your name and address for the board, we'd certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. David Vickers, 2980 Habersham Way, Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for taking some time this evening to look at our request. I brought a little bit larger site plan with me that might help you.
Thank you for waiting.
It's quite all right, I understand. The particular issues involved in this have to do with really several hardships. The primary one is the topography of the site. We really cannot raise the site any more up because we have ADA issues in being able to exit the site and get to the street. There's too much grade. We're raising the site as it is 2 feet and bringing dirt in to bring it up. So now we have walls that must come across the site here and through here. So there's really, you've got to be able to get around the building as well. And because within your form-based code, you want your buildings built very tight to the street, there's just not enough room, given the topography. And the topography really is the key issue.
Any questions to the applicant?
Mr. Vickers, it looks like at that miter triangle at the corner of Webb Road and State Route 9, the fence looks like it's moved in that location.
It is because we could. We could do it there. If you look at the building, how it's cornered off there.
Sure.
We went through, I don't want to exaggerate, but maybe 4 or 5 meetings with the city architect to come up with the actual structure, how it's going to look, what the materials are, the angles, and all these angles were really determined in those meetings. And within that, that's what they wanted, is something at that corner, not to be just a sharp angle, to give some architectural detail to it.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So, in our packet, it shows a blue highlight where the fence is going to be placed, and the question was, on the sharp corner where the parking lot is, it does not reflect there being fencing along the back of that parking lot to tie in.
Yes, I noticed you mentioned that earlier. When we met with staff and went through this, there was to be no fence in this area. From here to here, running across here. And I'm not sure exactly whether it was drainage, sewage, or there was a certain issue to doing that with the sidewalk in here. But those plans are now before the civil plans are submitted to the city, and if the city has comments on that, they'll come back to us and say, you have to change this to reflect that. The architectural plans will be to the city probably, it'll be next week. We'd hoped it'd be Friday, but I don't think they're going to be done by then.
How about along the back, well, which would be, I guess, the side property line in the back of the park?
We were not going to put the fence in there. That was when the civil originally drew it. There will be no fence on that back property line. There will be landscaping and trees, but we were not planning on putting a fence in there. And we're not asking for a variance there. Strictly asking for the variance along Highway 9 and Webb Road.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is I'm wondering if that's going to result in another variance.
No. There will not be a
The
fence there.
parking is?
You can go up to the property line. It's 3 feet from the right of way.
Okay. And that parking lot where it's situated is within the ordinance?
I didn't know, that's the first I heard that staff told them not to put it there, so.
It just looks like the parking lot's going right up to the property line, but that's,
Oh, yeah, parking, that's fine.
that's good, okay.
Any other questions to staff? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If there's no public comment,
Are we sure?
any questions to staff?
The fence that you're talking about, just to make sure there's no problems, it is that horse fence, the required. Do we need to clarify what type of fence? Just to be sure that somebody doesn't come in someday with a chain link fence or?
Well, it's specified in the form-based code, so
Okay. So we don't have to worry about them coming in someday later saying, well, you gave me permission to put a fence up. They come up with a barbed wire fence.
Yes, sir.
I have a question, and you may or may not know the answer, but as far as the expansion of Highway 9, would this, allowing this in any way cause conflict with the widening of Highway 9?
Mr. Vickers may be able to answer that, but I think we've reserved the right-of-way that we needed already, I think.
Including for sidewalks and all that? Okay. I hope,
Yeah, don't quote me on that.
because we want it widened. All right.
Any other questions? This time we'd like to close the public hearing and the floor is open for a motion.
Come on, that side of the room.
Oh, God, wouldn't I, hold on, I just closed.
Right here, use mine.
All right. I'll
Go ahead.
Well,
Rob.
I'll do it, I'll do it.
All right,
Jim, it's your turn.
I'd recommend approval of variance D14-06 to allow fence to be closer than 3 feet to the right of way with no staff conditions.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have any discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve V14-016 to allow a fence to be closer than 3 feet to the right of way. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same side. Good luck.
Good night.
Thank you.
Angela, that brings us
Just,
to V4.
just for the record, can you announce the result of the vote?
Oh, it was unanimous.
Thank you. I saw the hands, but you didn't pronounce it.
It's anonymous.
Yes, sir. V14-017, Angela, but I don't see anybody here.
So this one is a little different in that staff has initiated it, and I expected the applicant to be here, but I guess we thought this would be handled all by staff. Well, I think he forgot, but staff is initiated this on his behalf. So,
So are you,
Is this a test?
He's got to be here. He's a petitioner.
That's what they got
Do we
down
go
as he's a
ahead or do we
petitioner.
defer it?
From my understanding in discussing with staff, formally, the applicant or petitioner is in fact Mr. Loudermilk. Not being here, the board, and I'm trying to find the exact options. They would be moved to the end of the agenda, being there already. There's no reason to do that. Hang on.
You phrased it.
Generally, I mean, you can either deny or defer to a future meeting.
Counselor, my question is because the petitioner is Sherwin Loudermilk, and that person is not here to present, can we still go ahead and hear this case?
So we have the option of just denying or deferring.
The board, pursuant to Article 5, Section 6 of your bylaws, should the applicant or agent not be available when the item is called at the end of the agenda, the board may vote to either deny the application or defer the application to a future board meeting within which time the applicant shall have met all applicable deadlines for resubmittal material.
So we can't.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we defer case V 14-017
Yeah.
to October 2014.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to defer V 14-017 to our October 2014 meeting. Is there any discussion?
Question for the staff. Are they have a building permit now? Is this just a matter of that they can't finish some of their work in the back, or
they have
perhaps there's a pool that can't be completed?
They have a grading permit for the lot. The building permit is on hold until we get this approved.
Is there, and I know we can't do anything because what was read, but, you know, is there a situation where, you know, perhaps they could be under it by excluding the front sidewalk and excluding this and excluding that so they could still get a building permit? I mean, I'm just trying to brainstorm so that this doesn't hold them up. I wasn't sure they're aware that they're going to get this deferred, and this may hurt their closing.
I think the main issue is that 42% of the lot is in the golf course, and the way the ordinance is written right now. First of all, this ordinance was, again, this is part of the new rural Milton overlay, and it was approved, you know, after this subdivision was platted, and the applicant bought these lots, after he decided what house to build. And so now he's, you know, faced with these new rules. So, you know, like I said, one of the problems is that 42% of the lot is in the golf course, and we have to take out that part of the lot in calculating the impervious surface. He can do, you know, driveway, sidewalk, any of that in impervious materials, and that would bring down his amount of impervious coverage. I don't know if that's going to bring him down to 20. He's at 43% right now. So I haven't done those numbers.
Well, that's the only reason.
Actually, yeah, he would still be over. I think I asked him, but I think he'd still be over.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we don't have a choice, so I guess there's nothing we can do.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second to defer V 14-017 to our October 2014 meeting. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. It passed unanimously, Angela.
And do you want these for next meeting? Do you want to hold them for us, so you don't have to reprint them?
Sure, I'll hold them.
We need to make sure the applicant understands that they need to be here in order for us to hear it. Otherwise, we only have those two options. I make,
We have number 6.
Any conditions of appeals? None. Any old business? Any new business?
Should we start planning for our holiday party this year?
Well, if we're gonna do it, we need to do it right this year. Last year didn't go over very well. What month is this, September?
September, I'm trying to.
Everybody should think about it, and we'll talk about it next month. How does that sound?
It's 9 o'clock.
Way past Jim's bedtime.
Yeah.
Anybody
Motion to
want-
adjourn.
Anybody, we have a
Anybody?
motion to
Second.
adjourn, second, any discussion?
move that
All
we
in favor?
adjourn.
It passed.